Kurt Lewin was a German-American psychologist known as one of the modern pioneers of social, organizational, and applied psychology in the United States. Kurt Lewin developed a change model involving 3 steps: unfreezing, changing, and refreezing. This model represents a very simple and practical way for understanding the change process. For Lewin, the process of change entails creating the perception that a change is needed, then moving towards the new, desired level of behavior, and finally, solidifying that new behavior as the norm. The model is still widely used and serves as the basis for many modern change models. For the first step of unfreezing, this is the first stage of transition and most critical stage in the process of change management. Because many people will naturally resist change, the goal during the unfreezing stage is to create an awareness of how the status quo or current level of acceptability is hindering the organization in some way. Old behaviors, ways of thinking, processes, people, and organizational structures must all be carefully examined to show employees how necessary a change is for the organization to create or maintain a competitive advantage in the marketplace. This involves making people aware of the need for change and improving their motivation for accepting the new ways of working for better results. During this stage, effective communication plays a vital role in getting the desired support and involvement of the people in the change process. Stage 2 is to change. This is when the actual transition happens. This involves the acceptance of the new ways of doing things. Lewin recognized that change is a process where the organization must first transition or move into this new state of being. Since change is occurring during this stage, careful planning, effective communication, and encouraging the involvement of individuals for endorsing the change is absolutely necessary. Change is a process that must be carefully planned and executed. Throughout this process, employees should be reminded for the reasons of the change and how it will benefit them once fully implemented. The more prepared people are for this step, the easier it is to complete. The third stage is to freeze. This is also referred to as refreezing. By this stage, the change made to the organizational processes, goals, structure, offerings, or people are accepted and refrozen as the new norm or status quo. The people will have likely moved from the stage of transition to a much more stable state. The stage of refreezing is the ultimate stage in which people accept or internalize the new ways of working or change, accept it as part of their life, and establish new relationships. Positive rewards and acknowledgement of individualized efforts are often used to reinforce the new state because it is believed that positively reinforced behavior will likely be repeated. This final refreezing step is important as there is a high chance that people would revert back to their previous ways of doing things. Peter Senge has been at the forefront of organizational learning since publishing his classic text, The Fifth Discipline, in 1990. Peter Senge's The Fifth Discipline outlines the 5 disciplines that interface and support one another in this systems thinking concept. The aim is to provide blueprints for the learning organization. The 5 steps are as follows. First, personal mastery. This connects personal and organizational learning, merging an individual's personal vision with their current reality. Commitments happen between the organization and the individual. Personal mastery is a discipline of continually clarifying and deepening our personal vision, focusing our energies, developing patience, and seeing reality objectively. Second is mental models. This creates ingrained assumptions that influence how individuals understand their reality and what actions they take. These can be generalizations or even pictures or images that influence how we understand the world and how we take action. Third is building a shared vision. Senge explains this as a practice of unearthing shared pictures of the future that foster genuine commitment and enrollment rather than simple compliance. This step develops a projection of the future that is shared and creates a genuine commitment on all individuals involved. The fourth is team learning, which aligns the shared vision of a group and develops their capabilities to produce the results the team desires. This allows individual assumptions to be replaced with thinking together. Last is systems thinking. This is where we gain a framework for seeing patterns and how things interrelate and how to change things. This is really a step of taking a moment to review the integration of the other 4 steps. When the 5 disciplines are in use, an organization, great things can happen. The results would be successes such as learning matched to the employees' learning preferences, leaders becoming stewards and teachers, employees taking responsibilities for their own development and learning, as well as a strong understanding of how to learn versus a sole focus on what needs to be learned. The learning is easily tied to business objectives and strategy, and it creates a performance-based culture where solving problems and learning new ways not previously used are rewarded. The overall focus is to maintain a learning organization. John Kotter, a Harvard Business School professor and renowned change expert, in his book Leading Change, introduced an 8-step model of change, which introduced a change theory involving 8 steps. Built upon Lewin's unfreeze, change, refreeze model, the 8-step process for leading change was cultivated from over 4 decades of Dr. Kotter's observations on countless leaders and organizations as they were trying to transform or execute their strategies. The first step is to increase urgency. The objective of this step is to prepare the employees for the upcoming change, and it also motivates them to offer their contribution. This is where we make the business case for why the change is necessary and important. Management support is crucial for success beyond this first step. The second step is to build the guiding team. We need to build the right team for the current need. The ideal team will have the right skills, qualifications, reputation, connections, and sufficient power to identify and collate the individuals with the authority and influence to lead the change effort. The third step is to get the vision right. At this step, we determine the core values, define the ultimate vision, and the strategies for realizing a change in the organization. We must clearly identify the purpose and targets for change. The fourth step is to communicate a vision for buy-in. The goal of this step is to win the hearts and minds of the employees, to get them to make sacrifices to support the change, to get them to believe that the change is possible and the resulting benefits are for the best of the organizations as well as themselves. Overall, this is the communication strategy that cascades the message from the top down. The fifth step is to empower action. This is where we encourage and reward risk-taking, creative thinking, and the removal of barriers to change. Clearly understanding the barriers within the organization that are blocking the implementation of change, the guiding coalition that consists of employees with different expertise can help in this step. And openly communicating with employees and stakeholders can be a huge help in identifying the barriers. The sixth step is to create short-term wins. By creating short-term wins early in the change process, we can give a feel of victory in the early stages of change. Acknowledging what's working and when milestones are achieved, celebrating and sharing the rewards of even the smallest success. We must also remember to reward the contributions of people who are involved in meeting those targets. Our seventh step is to build upon momentum. This is where we consolidate the gains from the quick wins and continue to work on implementing larger change throughout the organization. This is the perfect opportunity to compound the effort of wins into momentum, seek to embrace those who have been resistant, and reinvigorate elements that have slowed down. Step 8, and our final step, is to root the change. This is where we make the change stick, reinforce the change by continued acknowledgement and connection of past to future conditions. It becomes time to improve or eliminate organizational processes that don't align with the new culture, and also to potentially remove individuals who might be hindering progress. Many organizations make the mistake of reacting to change outside the framework of the strategic planning process. The competitive disadvantage is often the result of poor quality decisions. For this reason, we explore the psychology of decision-making next. Starting with decision-making bias, we must be aware of various areas to avoid a potential bias, to be sure we don't make decisions or take action in an unknowingly or irrational way. The first one is anchoring bias. This is the over-reliance on an initial single piece of information or experience to make subsequent judgments. Once an anchor is set, other judgments are made by adjusting away from that anchor, which can limit one's ability to accurately interpret new, potentially relevant information. Framing bias occurs when people make a decision based on the way information is presented, rather on the facts themselves. This puts a much higher emphasis on the delivery than the actual content. Overconfidence bias occurs when a person overestimates the reliability of their judgment. This can include the certainty that one feels in their own ability, performance, or level of control, or potentially even chance of success. Confirmation bias occurs when decision makers seek out evidence that confirms their previously held beliefs while discounting or diminishing the impact of evidence in support of differing conclusions. The halo effect is an observer's overall impression of a person, company, brand, or product, and it influences the observer's feelings and thoughts about that entity's overall character or properties. It is the perception, for example, that if someone does well in a certain area, they will automatically perform well at something else regardless of whether those tasks are related. The opposite of this is the horn effect. The escalation of commitment bias refers to the irrational behavior of investing additional resources in a project that is failing. Even if it may seem obvious to outsiders that the proposal has died, one might try to use all their time, energy, and money to try and save it. What can they see that others can't? The theory of commitment bias explores this phenomenon. Evidence-based decision-making is also referred to as EBDM. At the end of the day, we want to make the best possible decisions that we can, sometimes with the limited information at our disposal. Evidence-based HR refers to a process in which the organization evaluates any decision or process against data, real experience, expert opinions, or other types of information to ensure the decision is likely to have the desired outcome. Evidence-based decision-making is a strategic and deliberate method of applying knowledge and research-supported principles to make quality decisions. Oftentimes, we will attempt to solve problems through group decision-making. This can be referred to as nominal, group, or brainstorming. The nominal group technique, also known as NGT, is defined as a structured method for group brainstorming. This method encourages contributions from everyone and facilitates quick agreement on the relative importance of issues, problems, or solutions. In this technique, every member of the group gives their view on the solution with a short explanation. Once all solutions are proposed, any duplicate solutions are eliminated from the list, and the remaining solutions are ranked by the members. In the basic method, the numbers each solution receives are totaled, and the solution with the highest total ranking is selected as the final decision. However, some facilitators will encourage the sharing and discussion of rationale for the proposed solutions made by each group member. With this approach, there is the ability to identify common ground among the team. This diversity often allows the creation of a hybrid idea, which combines parts of two or more of the ideas, often found to be even better than any singular idea initially being considered. There are variations on how this technique is used. For example, it can identify strengths versus areas in need of development rather than be used as a decision-making voting alternative. Also, options do not always have to be ranked, but may be evaluated more subjectively.